Hi there. Thanks for joining me for the Daily Word. Hey, if you haven't done so already, please click subscribe down there and please click that little bell so that you don't miss the Daily Word or any of the other things that we produce here at Redeemer Bible Church. Now, I preached 2.5 sermons on the passage we're going to look at today back in 2017. So if you're interested in those, find the playlist, The Murdered Jesus, and you can watch those there. I'm going to organize this under 3 headings today. The first one is mockery. Yeah, that comes back. That's Mark's focus in this section. It's not the physical suffering, it's the mockery. And what we see starting in verse 27 is that every king needs a court. So they crucify 2 criminals next to Jesus. He's there. They're his noblemen, his princes, these criminals. He's the king of the losers, the king of the rebels who are nothing compared to the power of Rome. That's what's being proclaimed there. Now, verse 28 is a study note that found its way into the biblical text. It's not part of the original. That's why, for many of you, it's in brackets. Mockery continues. You see mockery from the public that's coming to Jerusalem for the Passover, walking by Jesus being crucified. You see mockery from the religious leaders, and you even see mockery from the criminals. Again, Mark is showing the psychological suffering of Jesus. This is happening for some 6 hours or so, this mockery taking place. All of this fulfills prophecy. You can go read Psalm 22, 6 and 7, Isaiah 49, 7, and Isaiah 53, 3 to see that. So that's verses 27 to 32. Now verses 33 to 39 is the murder. I've got 5 headings under this one. The first is substitute. That's the darkness. This is supernatural darkness. This is sin-bearing darkness. This is wrath-taking darkness. It's darkness because this is a preview of the day of the Lord. When God unleashes his wrath on his creation, he is doing that with Jesus in this moment. He is pouring out the wrath on Jesus for all of those who would believe in Jesus throughout all time. Next, verse 34, you have this scream. And when I preach this text, these are Jesus' last words. Last words in an ancient text are important words, giving us kind of the point of why this person is there in the text itself. I had 10 points on this scream. And so I would encourage you to go and listen to this passage, this sermon. There is a depth in this text that I just simply can't bring out right now. Next is scorn. More mockery shows up in verses 35 to 36. This wine given to him is not a kind gesture. Jesus saying, Eloi, Eloi, he's speaking the language all of them know. He's not speaking Chinese. He knows they're not screaming for Elijah, but they know Elijah's supposed to come and introduce people to the Messiah, and so they think, okay, well, let's give him some wine. Let's keep him alive a little bit longer to keep that hope alive that maybe Elijah will come. They're mocking him with that. Then there's the success in verses 37 and 38. 3 hours of substitution, 3 hours of wrath receiving, ends with a victory cry. Most crucifixion victims would pass out, but not Jesus. He endured it all, and at the very end lets out a victory cry. And this cry when he dies, this moment splits the curtain in the temple. This is an incredibly thick curtain. This is a miraculous moment showing that humanity now has access to this holy God through the death of Jesus. And then finally, there's salvation in verse 39. The soldier is there to make sure Jesus died. He has seen death countless times at this point, most likely. And yet there's something about this death that told him that Jesus was the Son of God. We know from Matthew chapter 16 that flesh and blood doesn't know these things, that this was something that God graciously revealed to him. But in this moment, I think that this centurion was saved. So we've got the mockery, we've got the murder, and we end the chapter with the memorial, verses 40 to 47. Jesus' burial It kind of seems like this in between of his death and his resurrection. But his burial is significant. First, it fulfills prophecy. Isaiah 53:9, it is fulfilled literally. He is buried in a rich man's tomb, exactly as Isaiah said he would 700 years earlier. It shows that he died. Verse 44 clearly says that Jesus died. He died again as the sin bearer, the sin carrier. It shows this section that he had more followers than the 12. Remember that one of the, Judas commits suicide. The other 10 run away. There's only one who's left at the crucifixion. That's John. We know that from John 19. But we find that there are other followers of Jesus: Joseph of Arimathea, Nicodemus, and a handful of women. Now, while those 10 disciples, as they ran away with no courage, you see courage in these men and in these women. They were with Jesus until the very end. And they become the eyewitnesses that tell a guy like Mark, hey, here's what happened on that day. So as you look at those last people, as you think about them, there's some significant times that we're facing right now. Times that could lead to some real difficulties for Christians in the days and years ahead. How difficult would it have been for them to stay committed to Jesus? Other guys ran away. A whole bunch of people run away. How difficult would it be for them to stay committed to Jesus, for Joseph of Arimathea to go to Pilate and say, I'm identifying with this man who you just killed for treason. Nicodemus being identified with him. It's not in Mark, but Nicodemus, it says in John, helps Joseph of Arimathea to bury Jesus. How hard, how difficult, how tempting would it have been to also run away, and yet they stay committed to Jesus and to the very end, even in the midst of this, where to be so easy to leave, and they refuse. That is a lesson for all of us, that no matter what comes our way, that we too must stay committed to Jesus to the very end. This is the death of our Savior. I know that I went through this quickly, but again, I preached 5 sermons on Mark chapter 15 to make sure that we got every ounce of insight that I could possibly pull with my limited brain matter in order to help people really understand what took place in these moments. I hope this has been helpful. I really hope you go look at those, listen to those messages. They'll be super, super helpful in your walk with him. And my hope, I know that when I went through Mark 15 as the preacher, the effect that it had on me as my love for Jesus increased. I still go back to those sermons, remembering the things that I learned there and remembering the way that increased my love for Christ because of what I saw in the details that Mark gives us. Hope that's helpful. We'll see you again tomorrow.